Dr. Alana DeGrassa here, president of Turning on the Lights Global Institute. I want to welcome you to 2026 and welcome you to this discussion around how to have an unrecognizable 2026. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the first part one video where we talked about some of the things that I've been doing in 2025 and my new perspective of things for 2026. And one of the things I talked about in our last lesson were some of the things you can do to kind of ensure that your 2026 year is amazing. And one of the key points that I made in my posts on social media and on Instagram was simply that it's okay to figure out how to have more fun in 2026. The way to have more fun is to be less overwhelmed with all the tech stuff. Number two, figuring out how to connect with others. And number three, getting into the right environment. But sometimes we think that we're not doing anything when we're just pondering or when we are incubating, as Albert Einstein would do. He was known to sit for 8 hours at a time. And I challenged myself one weekend when Hubster and I had returned back home from Portugal to do this incubation. I was at the Boston Central Library and I just took a weekend and took a particular Saturday and really just sat there and thought with my thoughts about the time that I spent becoming an educator, and then the time that I spent becoming a strong communicator, and the time I spent to become a scholar practitioner around persistence methodology, and all the time it took for me to become that individual. And I was looking at all of that and I was asking myself, well, Alana, now what is it that you want to do now? And at that time, I had a couple of poetry books I think I'd written at that time, but I really wanted to do something different and I wanted to speak more. I also wanted to coach people more, leaving the teaching landscape. And I just wasn't sure how to put it all together. And I remember the sense of overwhelm, the sense of urgency I had too, because again, we had just transitioned from living abroad, moving back to Boston. And so for me, this was not just going to be a side gig. Like, it was a side gig, but I really wanted to make enough income to basically be able to pay the bills. And I remember just at that time, the nervousness, the anxiety, because when you don't have any book of business or anyone that you can look to for a testimonial, it can be very unnerving and scary, to say the least. So my first challenge was really just recognizing that I could leave imposter, that I did not have to have a big roster of people to begin. And the first thing I'll never forget is I decided I would serve three individuals. That was going to be my bandwidth to see if I really wanted to do it. I had all of the certifications to coach, to educate, to inspire individuals. I had that, but I had never actually done it as a business owner. So in those the early years, I kind of said, well, let me just see what my rhythm and my system would be. And of course, it was great. You know, I was able to coach a war veteran. I coached a friend of mine who was trying to start her side hustle, and one other person. And I just told them, look, I'm not going to charge you anything. And you know, for 2 months, I basically was of service to them. I still honored my time. And if they did not honor my time, though, I wasn't going to keep meeting. So there was one that eventually fell off. The other two we kept going, and it really was great because it kind of gave me bandwidth to understand what I liked, what I wanted to shift, and what I could actually offer people. And plus, when you're really just helping people, they will come right out and tell you other things they need help with. And you'll find, oh, you know, I wasn't thinking about this element before. And they will also tell you the aspects about what it is in the time that you have with them, what they enjoyed, what they wanted more of. And you know, they're really usually very grateful. So if you're trying to get your side hustle off the ground, I would say, you know, take time to really figure out if you don't have anyone to point to say they've worked with you, then yeah, just find a way to serve people. And when you serve them, you know, reward them by the time that you give them. So that was something that I was able to do And, and I honor them by saying everything, that we share is confidential. And I really shared with them my intentions. And once they realized what it was that I was trying to do, they were all on board. And it was a great experience. And from there, of course, my company grew and I started different online course offerings. And essentially, that is how Turning on the Lights Global Institute began. But I will say that start is really what it's all about, because you are constantly reminding yourself that you're worth it, you are 5-star, that this is going to happen. So the first thing I would just tell you, even if you're going to have some incubation for 2026, reward yourself for what you've already done up to this point. And the way you reward yourself, as corny as it sounds, is take a moment and jot down 15 things that you have done over the last 10 years. And most of the clients that we have, these are experts and leaders, so they can take time. And what was funny is that when I meet with clients, they normally say, oh my gosh, I can't come up with anything. And then I say, okay, write down how long it took for you to become who you are when you went to school. How many hours did you take to study? How many papers did you write? Then I have them jot down maybe their first, second, third job. What did they do? How did one job lead to the next? So we tend to forget all of those years because we're just thinking in the present. But I challenge you to have incubation by jotting down maybe the last 10 years. What were the jobs held? What were the skills you had? What were the trainings and the other things you had to do in order to get promotions? And how can you take those skill sets and transfer them into either a side hustle, into consulting, into writing, or speaking more about what you know? The other thing I want to remind you is that just because you have all the expertise and knowledge in that area and you're bored with it because you've been doing it so long, other people would find it so fascinating. I'll never forget, I went to an alumni event 2 months ago, and this woman was asking me, okay, well, what is your business? And I said to her, oh, it's Turning on the Lights Global Institute. And she said, well, what is that? And I said, it's a business that helps people use digital technology to grow their business. And she said, well, when did you get into that? And I went down the memory lane of what made me decide to go into new media and technology in the first place. And she just kept asking question after question. And it was interesting because the thing that I thought was the most important wasn't. She wanted to know the why behind everything. And it ended up being a very interesting conversation. So sometimes when we are so into what we know how to do, we easily forget all the little pieces of that variation, the elements that make us who we are professionally and personally. And I just want to encourage you to know that 2026, even though every day may have felt the same, even though you may have not had any gains, even though you feel like the days are the same, you can still decide that, nope, 2026, I'm going to do things differently. And I think one of the biggest things about great change is the small steps that you have to take to see the great change. So sometimes in the small steps, we have so many things that we're saying to ourselves. And in persistence and the pursuit of something, we realize in that research that there are so many hidden things that impact us when it comes to getting to a new goal. And sometimes it can be our own personal hiccups about ourselves, our self-perception. It can be psychological aspects of perception of how we were treated when we were growing up, or how we experienced things in school or in a coaching program, etc. 9 times out of 10, when we really want to shift something, we have so much mental toughness to get through because we've probably had our guards up. We want to stay comfortable, and it's difficult to actually get into that incongruence where change resides. So one of the things I want to challenge you to do so that you can actually see that your change is actually possible is to say, for every dream or vision or a goal I say I really, really want, where is the time that I'm going to make for it to happen? Who can hold me accountable to that? And so it might be that, let's say weight loss. I'm always working on health and wellness, but this year I have some personal goals. So I can look at my calendar and see, oh my goodness, I need to meet with a nutritioner, need nutritionist, I need to meet with a personal trainer, and I also need to have other times to get on the treadmill and do what I need to do. And I can tell you now that even in this moment, I don't necessarily look forward to those moments. I used to always look forward to movement and dance, and then with time, just because of my schedule and everything else, some of that dissipated. So you might be in a place where you need to rewire your mind to fall in love with the actual discipline beyond your feeling. And that, my friends, is so difficult to do. But I tell you, if you are super serious about 2026 being different, then you being able to listen to what I'm saying right now, jotting down what it is that you really want to see in 2026, and then being bold enough, I would say on January 1st, to jot down what you would do. My goodness, that would be absolutely amazing. So by the time you watch this video, we would have started the new year, but tap into that activity of incubation. Look at your schedule, look at your calendar, and ask yourself, oh my goodness, what is it that I need to add to my calendar in order to make sure that we can see this happen? Now, I want to invite you to the International Women Build Confidence Conference, because at the International Women Build Confidence Conference, we are going to be discussing incubation. We're also going to be discussing your financial upgrade. We're going to be talking also about how to find that balance that we need in order to have enough energy to get to the goals we really desire. So remember, your dreams are only as strong as your plans and your ability to implement actual activities inside your calendar. So I want you to like this video, comment below what are some of the things that you're proud of that you've done over the last 5-10 years, and what are some of the things you're hoping for in 2026. Well, take care. Thanks for being a part of the Turning on the Lights Global Institute community. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.